When disaster strikes and the world turns upside down, bugging in can be your safest option, but only if you're prepared. The truth is, even experienced preppers can make critical mistakes that could cost them dearly when SHTF. From overlooked supplies to poor planning, small errors can have huge consequences in a crisis. In this video, we're breaking down the top 15 bugging in mistakes preppers will make and how to avoid them, so you can stay safe, secure, and ready for whatever comes your way. Stay tuned to make sure you're not making these life-threatening errors. 1. Underestimating water needs. Water is life, period. If you think you have enough stored, you probably don't. Most preppers assume a gallon per person per day is enough, but that's just for drinking. What about cooking, cleaning, washing up, or staying sanitary when water lines go down? Those needs quickly turn that 1 gallon into 3 or more per person per day. A family of 4? That's around 360 gallons per month, and that's a conservative estimate. The worst mistake you can make is assuming you'll figure it out as you go. When disaster strikes, water sources could be cut off, contaminated, or outright inaccessible. If you don't have massive reserves or a way to collect and purify water, you're done. Dehydration sets in faster than you think, and it won't take long before you're too weak to function. By the time desperation kicks in, you'll be forced to drink anything, contaminated water included, which leads to disease and a faster decline. Solutions? Store water in large capacity tanks and portable containers. Invest in rainwater collection and learn how to purify it properly. Stockpile filters, water purification tablets, and bleach. If you think a single life straw will save you, think again. Those are for short-term survival, not long-term sustainability. Get serious about your water supply now, because once stock soup, there won't be a second chance. 2. Overlooking medical needs. Think about this. Hospitals will be overwhelmed or non-existent when things go south. No paramedics, no pharmacies, no easy fixes. If you or someone in your household has a medical condition, you better have a plan, because relying on the system won't be an option. A minor wound can turn septic, a common infection can become fatal, and running out of medication could mean death. First aid kits aren't just for band-aids. You need real medical supplies. Gauze, antiseptics, tourniquets, splints, sutures, antibiotics, painkillers, and prescription meds if anyone relies on them. If you have diabetics in the family, do you have enough insulin stored? If someone has asthma, do you have extra inhalers? Mental health medications? Blood pressure pills? Stocking up before disaster hits is the only way to ensure survival. And let's talk about skills. Having a med kit means nothing if you don't know how to use it. Can you clean and dress a deep wound? Can you set a broken bone? Can you recognize the signs of shock, dehydration, or an infection? Learn basic first aid, CPR, and wound care now, because when you need those skills, it will be too late to learn. Don't assume you'll have time to call for help or make a pharmacy run. Once SHTF, you are the only medical provider in your household. Act like it. 3. Failing to have an escape plan. Bugging in is great, until it isn't. If your home becomes compromised due to fire, flood, intruders, or structural collapse, what's your plan? If you don't have one, you've already lost. Preppers who assume they'll stay put no matter what are ignoring reality. Disaster situations evolve, and you need the flexibility to adapt. A secondary location is a must. Whether it's a bug-out cabin, a friend's place, or a predetermined shelter outside the danger zone, you need somewhere safe to go, and getting there, you need a bug-out bag packed and ready, not buried in a closet somewhere. When it's time to move, you might only have minutes to act. That bag should contain food, water, medical supplies, clothing, self-defense tools, and survival gear. And don't assume you'll just drive out. Roads may be blocked, gas stations empty, and traffic a nightmare. Do you have alternate routes mapped out? Have you considered an on-foot evacuation plan if vehicles aren't an option? If you haven't physically tested your escape routes, you're gambling with your life. Bugging in is plan A. A solid plan B ensures you're not trapped and helpless when things spiral out of control. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because the worst is exactly what's coming when SHTF. 4. Poor home fortification. A weak home is a target. If you think your home is automatically safe because you've decided to bug in, think again. A house that isn't properly fortified is just a giant invitation for looters, desperate neighbors, and violent opportunists. When SHTF, crime skyrockets. There won't be police patrolling the streets or anyone coming to help you. Your home is your fortress. And if you haven't strengthened it, you're rolling out the welcome mat for trouble. Reinforced doors and windows are non-negotiable. If someone can kick your door in with a couple of tries, you have a major problem. Standard deadbolts aren't enough. Invest in door barricades, steel reinforcement plates, and heavy-duty locks. Windows are another weak spot. If they're easily breakable, you're handing looters an easy way in. Security film, window bars, and impact-resistant glass make it harder for anyone to get through. Deterrence is just as important as defense. The goal isn't to turn your home into a military compound, it's to make sure it looks like too much trouble to mess with. Security cameras, even fake ones, motion sensor lights, and warning signs can make looters think twice. Something as simple as keeping your house looking occupied, like leaving lights on timers, can make a huge difference. And then there's the worst-case scenario, a full-blown home invasion. Do you have a safe room? If someone breaks in, do you have a last line of defense where you and your family can stay safe? Fortifying a small, hidden space with a solid door, emergency supplies, and a way to call for help can be a literal lifesaver. Bottom line, if your home is easy to break into, you might not make it through a crisis. Stop pretending it won't happen to you, and start reinforcing now. 5. Ignoring sanitation and hygiene. A fast track to disease. If you think running out of food or water is your biggest concern, you're forgetting something just as deadly: filth and disease. Poor sanitation can take you down just as fast as starvation. When the plumbing stops working and garbage piles up, sickness spreads. A single mistake, like failing to wash your hands or letting waste build up, can lead to deadly infections, food poisoning, or waterborne illnesses. First off, where is your waste going? If the sewer system stops working, your toilets become useless. If you haven't planned ahead, your home will turn into a disgusting, disease-ridden nightmare. You need a backup plan for human waste disposal, like a composting toilet, a bucket system with sawdust, or an outdoor latrine. And don't forget extra trash bags, tons of them. You don't want garbage sitting inside your home, attracting rats and insects. Then there's personal hygiene. Don't underestimate the power of soap, hand sanitizer, wet wipes, and bleach. When water is limited, these items become gold. Washing hands, keeping wounds clean, and sanitizing surfaces can prevent deadly infections. A minor cut that gets infected in a world without doctors? That's how people lose limbs or die from sepsis. Stock up on antibacterial ointments, bandages, and disposable gloves to stay ahead of infections. And let's talk about food sanitation. If you're cooking with dirty utensils or eating off contaminated surfaces, you're playing Russian roulette with food poisoning. Stomach bugs might be annoying now, but when SHTF, dehydration from vomiting and diarrhea, can be fatal. You need clean water, proper dishwashing methods, and airtight food storage to keep bacteria at bay. Ignoring sanitation is one of the fastest ways to turn a survivable situation into a death sentence. Cleanliness isn't just about comfort, it's about survival. 6. Neglecting fuel supplies. No fuel, no survival. When the power grid fails, how are you going to cook, stay warm, or keep the lights on? If you haven't thought about fuel, you're setting yourself up for misery, starvation, and possibly death. People take fuel for granted because it's always there. Electricity, gas stations, and heating systems work without a second thought. But when they stop, you'll quickly realize how screwed you are if you didn't prepare. Let's start with cooking. If your entire food plan depends on an electric stove or microwave, you'll be out of luck when the grid goes down. You need alternative cooking methods like a propane stove, wood-burning stove, solar oven, or even a simple rocket stove. And don't forget a backup supply of matches, lighters, and fire-starting materials. Because without them, your stove is useless. Then there's heat. If you live in a cold climate and think you'll just tough it out, think again. Hypothermia kills fast, and even if it doesn't kill you directly, extreme cold can weaken your immune system, making you more vulnerable to sickness. You need a reliable way to heat your home, whether it's a wood stove, propane heater, or kerosene heater. And don't forget proper ventilation. People die every winter from carbon monoxide poisoning because they don't store or use fuel safely. And let's talk about mobility and power. If you think you might need to bug out, do you have enough fuel for your vehicle? Gas stations will be either empty or unsafe, so if your tank is near empty when disaster strikes, you're not going anywhere. Storing extra gasoline or diesel safely in proper containers can mean the difference between escape and being trapped. Generators are another overlooked necessity. Having one can keep your essentials running, but only if you have enough fuel. Here's the kicker. Fuel runs out fast in a crisis. If you haven't stockpiled it ahead of time, you'll be competing with desperate crowds at gas stations, hardware stores, and anywhere else people are scrambling for resources. Don't assume you'll just find some when you need it. By the time you need it, it's already too late. 7. Forgetting pet preparedness. Your pets are helpless without you. You've stocked up food, water, and medical supplies for yourself, but what about your pets? If you haven't planned for them, they're as good as dead. People assume they'll figure it out or that their pets will somehow adapt. That's not how it works. Pets rely 100% on their owners for survival, and if you don't have enough supplies, they'll suffer the consequences. Let's start with food and water. Your pet needs just as much consistency in their diet as you do. You can't expect them to suddenly switch to random scraps and be fine. If they have a specific diet, stockpile at least 3 months' worth of food. Dry food lasts longer, but canned food has a longer shelf life. If you think you'll share your own food with them, be careful. Some human foods are toxic to animals. Water is another huge issue. Your pet needs clean water every day, just like you. If you're rationing water, are you including their intake in your calculations? A dog or cat can't just drink less because supplies are low. If your water runs out, they suffer right alongside you. What about medical supplies? If your pet is on medication, do you have enough stored? A diabetic pet without insulin is a dead pet. A dog with untreated infections will suffer horribly. Even flea and tick control is a must. An infestation in a crisis situation will drive both you and your animal insane. Indoor waste management is another overlooked nightmare. If you're bugging in for weeks or months, where is your pet going to relieve itself? If you have a dog and think you'll just let them out, what if it's too dangerous? What if the weather is unbearable? You need an indoor solution. Puppy pads, a designated litter area, or a DIY waste system. And don't forget comfort items. A stressed pet is an unpredictable pet. If your dog or cat is terrified, it might stop eating, develop behavioral problems, or even lash out. Having familiar toys, blankets, or a crate can provide a sense of security and routine. Too many preppers assume their pets will just go with the flow. That's not reality. If you're bugging in, your pets are counting on you for everything. If you haven't prepped for them, you're not just failing yourself, you're failing them too. 8. Lack of communication tools. No info, no survival. When SHTF, information is everything. If you're cut off from the world, you have no idea what's happening outside your 4 walls. Is the danger over? Is it getting worse? Are emergency services operating? Are looters moving into your area? If you have no way to get updates, you're completely blind. And that's a death sentence. Let's talk about radios. You can't rely on your phone. Cell towers will go down, the internet will crash, and power outages will render electronics useless. The only reliable way to get news is through battery-powered or solar-powered emergency radios. NOAA weather radios and shortwave radios can keep you informed on disaster updates, warnings, and changing conditions. And if you need to communicate with the outside world, you need a satellite phone or a ham radio. Satellite phones work even when cell networks fail, and ham radios can connect with people miles away, even across entire regions. If you don't know how to use a ham radio, learn now. When the grid goes down, ham radio operators are often the only ones still in touch with what's happening. For short-range communication, don't underestimate walkie-talkies. If you have family members spread across a property or moving in and out of the house, walkie-talkies keep you connected without relying on cell service. And if you need to signal for help, you need low-tech options too. Whistles, signal mirrors, and flashlights can attract attention if you're in trouble. The worst mistake you can make? Thinking you don't need any of this. When the world goes dark, you need a way to hear what's happening, reach out for help, and communicate with your group. Otherwise, you're just waiting to be caught off guard. 9. Ignoring mental health and cabin fever. The silent killer. You've locked the doors, you've got supplies, and you're waiting for the crisis to end. But what happens when the isolation sets in? What happens when the stress, boredom, and fear start eating away at you? Too many preppers ignore the psychological side of survival, and that's a huge mistake. Mental breakdowns can be just as dangerous as physical threats. Cabin fever is real. If you're trapped inside for weeks or months, it can lead to irritability, depression, anxiety, and irrational decision-making. People stuck in enclosed spaces for too long start snapping at each other, losing motivation, and even making suicidal decisions. You might think you're mentally tough now, but wait until the days turn into weeks and the stress doesn't let up. So how do you fight this? Routine is your best weapon. If you're just sitting around waiting for things to get better, you're setting yourself up for mental collapse. Create a structured daily schedule. Wake up at the same time, have designated meal times, and assign tasks for everyone. A sense of normalcy makes all the difference. Physical activity is also crucial. Exercise isn't just about staying fit, it's about keeping your mind from spiraling. Even if you're stuck indoors, do bodyweight exercises, stretch, or create a simple workout routine. Physical movement releases endorphins that fight depression and stress. And let's talk about entertainment. You need ways to keep your mind occupied: books, puzzles, board games, or even learning new skills. Something as simple as journaling or planning future projects can help maintain focus and mental clarity. Finally, don't underestimate the power of social interaction. If you're bugging in with family or a small group, communication is key. Ignoring each other, shutting down emotionally, or bottling up frustration will lead to conflict and breakdowns. Take time to talk, support each other, and keep morale up. People prepare for physical survival but ignore mental survival, and that's a fatal mistake. If you lose control of your mind, it won't matter how much food, water, or security you have. 10. Overlooking fire safety. Your biggest threat is inside your own home. When SHTF, your entire survival setup revolves around your home. But what happens when your house goes up in flames? Most people don't think about fire safety until it's too late. When you're relying on alternative heating, open flames, and fuel-powered devices, you're playing with fire. Literally. One of the biggest fire hazards in a survival situation is alternative cooking and heating methods. If the power is out, you're lighting candles, burning wood, using propane stoves, or even running a generator inside. Each one of these increases your risk of starting a fire. If you're not careful, you'll turn your safe house into a funeral pyre. So, what's the solution? Fire extinguishers. Not just one, but multiple. One for the kitchen, one for the main living area, one near heating equipment. And don't just buy them, know how to use them. In a crisis, you don't have time to read the instructions. Proper ventilation is non-negotiable. Using propane heaters, kerosene lamps, or charcoal indoors, you're flirting with carbon monoxide poisoning. If the fire doesn't kill you, the invisible, odorless gas will. You need ventilation, carbon monoxide detectors, and strict placement rules for anything that burns fuel. Your fire escape plan is just as important as your bug-in plan. If a fire starts, how are you getting out? What if the front door is blocked? What about your kids? Do you have a rope ladder for second stream escapes? If your only plan is run outside, you don't have a plan. Prepping isn't just about stockpiling food and ammo, it's about staying alive. And if you're not prepared for fire hazards, your whole plan could literally go up in smoke. 11. Not preparing for local threats. Your disaster plan is useless if it ignores reality. Too many preppers follow generic survival plans without considering their specific environment. A prepper in Florida shouldn't be prepping the same way as a prepper in Alaska. A city dweller has different risks than someone in the countryside. If you're not preparing for the threats in your exact location, you're doing it wrong. Let's talk floods. If you live in a flood-prone area and your food, water, and gear are stored on the ground level, congratulations, you just lost everything. Supplies should be stored on higher ground in waterproof containers and sealed against moisture damage. If you're not ready to evacuate at a moment's notice, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Earthquakes? Your bug-in plan is worthless if your home isn't structurally sound. Securing furniture, reinforcing walls, and having earthquake-proof storage isn't optional, it's survival. You don't want to be digging through a pile of debris looking for your food after a quake hits. Hurricanes, tornadoes, extreme weather events require reinforced shelters, window barriers, and backup power solutions. If you don't have a safe room, you don't have a real plan. And then there's chemical or industrial disasters. If you live near a chemical plant, refinery, or major highway, you need to be prepared for airborne toxins. A standard survival kit won't cut it. You need gas masks, air filters, and sealed-off spaces. If a toxic cloud rolls in and you don't have the right gear, you'll be choking on your mistake. Here's the bottom line. Your preparedness must be customized to your environment. If you're prepping for the wrong threats, you're not prepared at all. 12. Failing to conduct regular drills. A plan you never practice is just a fantasy. You can have the best survival plan in the world, but if you've never actually tested it, it's useless. The harsh truth? Most people freeze, panic, or make stupid mistakes in a crisis. And if you don't drill your bug-in plan regularly, you'll be one of them. Think about it. If a fire broke out in your home right now, would your family know exactly what to do? If an intruder tried to force their way in, would you react instantly or hesitate? If you had to leave in 5 minutes, could you grab everything you need and be out the door? Survival isn't just about knowledge, it's about muscle memory. The only way to train your instincts is through regular drills. Bug-in drills simulate a grid-down scenario. Turn off the power and water, live off your supplies, and see what problems arise. Fire evacuation drills. Time how fast your family can get out and make sure everyone knows multiple escape routes. Intruder response drills. Practice home defense scenarios, safe room access and communication signals. Bug out drills. Grab your go bags and see how fast you can leave. Make sure you don't forget critical supplies. Drills aren't just about speed, they reveal weaknesses in your plan. Maybe you realize your supplies aren't as accessible as you thought. Maybe your bug-out bags are too heavy to carry long distances. Maybe your kids don't react fast enough in an emergency. It's better to discover these problems now than when it's too late. Complacency is a killer. If you think you're prepared but never test your plan, you're fooling yourself. When disaster strikes, you don't want to be the person standing around in confusion. You want to be the person who already knows exactly what to do.